actually guessing, right? Okay.
Hello, everyone. Can everybody
Hello.
hear me?
Yes, is that Musa?
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much. We're glad that you could join us. Musa, please take it away.
I heard you guys discussing briefly what architecture is all about. I'd just like to hear some of those answers again, please.
Some are saying it's accounting, it's IT, and then the one person is saying the ability to design buildings. So yeah, it's over to you, Musa.
Who was that person that answered the ability to design? I think that was quite an interesting answer that you gave. Do you mind just picking up your hand so that I can see you? Wow. Well done. Just put this correctly. Hello, guys. Can you guys all see me? Can everybody see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. So architecture is the design of buildings, or more specifically of spaces. I'm currently an architect at a company called Sage Architects, and what we specialize in mostly is your motor dealerships, so your VWs, your Audis, those kinds of structures. Sorry, guys, I just want to put this so that you guys can see me clearly. I do have a bit of a PowerPoint presentation to show you, just to give you an idea of what it is exactly that we do. I'm going to share my screen. See, we have so many windows open. Let me just try and get it for you guys. Okay, just do this quickly, actually. It's quite a busy day at the office, guys, so don't mind the noise in the background. There we go. So this is basically what architecture is. It's the design of buildings. You start from the outside and work your way in, and from the inside and work your way out again. I'm going to show you an example of my master's dissertation that I did in 2018, where I designed a religious complex in Diepsloot. So this basically shows where the site was located and all the surroundings. So there was a sports field and a school close by. There was a whole row of churches in the street, and this is where my site was located. Just to show you some of the exploration that you did. So you basically go from a line drawing or a simple sketch, and you start to break it down to its very basic ideas, or what you would like your building to be like. And then you start exploring in terms of build form or shapes. And then you go down to the very nitty-gritty detail of how a building is actually put together. These are just to show you how the building looked in section. And that's what it looks like on the outside. And this is how you experience it on the inside. These are some of the other projects that I've worked on. We've worked on a dealership in Krugersdorp, VW. We've worked on a mental facility for this organization called Little Eden in Babsfontein. Also worked on a sports facility upgrade in Inanda, in the Rivonia area, for a sports facility upgrade, more specifically for their swimming pool area. And then we've also worked on a house in Pretoria. So it was a new house that we were building on. So in terms of what you need to do to follow a career path in architecture, in high school, you would need to do maths and science. I think most universities work with a APS, or a percentage score of 60% upwards for both maths and science. You need to have English. You also need yeah, so those are your basic subjects that you require. And then arts and science, art and EGD, I think you guys call it engineering graphics design. They're nice to have, but they are not necessary to have. I did art in school, but it didn't make much of a difference when I started studying architecture. And then in terms of your career path, so when you get to tertiary level, there are two main routes that you can take. So you can go the university level or university route, which your undergrad is going to be 3 years, after which you can work or continue to study. And then you have 2 years for your postgrad, which is your honors and your masters. If you go the University of Technology route, it's 4 years for your undergrad, and then another 2 years for your postgrad degree. So all in all, if you are going to go the university route, it's 5 years. And if you're going to go the University of Technology route, it's going to be 6 years. There is an alternative, which is you start off with a drafting certificate from a college, and in the next level. So there are 3 options. So you can do the college, which is where you're going to get your certificate. It's 1 year. And then from having that certificate, you'd need to do a national diploma, which is 3 years. And then from the national diploma, you do your BTech. So all in all, the route of going via a college is actually the longest route instead of going via a university or University of Technology. So currently, these are all the places that are available for you to study architecture. So either a certificate, a degree, or a BTech. Yeah. So in terms of training, ideally what you would need to do is do your first qualification, so either your drafting certificate or your university degree, then go and work just to get a bit of in-field experience. Some students have found it valuable to work at an architectural firm during the university holidays, which is always a good thing. So if you can find a company that would allow you to be an intern, so possibly for 3 years you work with them, that would be ideal because then it gives you a head start. I must say there is quite a big difference between working in the field and also being a student. I found that for myself, I learned more about architecture by being in the working environment rather than being a student. But don't let the lecturers hear you say that. So in my case, what I did was I did my undergrad at a university, the University of Pretoria. I worked for 2 years, after which I went back to studying my honors, and I worked and studied during the 2 years that I did that. And then I did my master's in 2018. Then I came back afterwards to work as an intern or a candidate architect. And now I'm qualified as a professional architect. So even in architecture, there's different levels according to your qualification that you can work, and depending on which qualification you get, it will give you different experience to different projects. So a person who has a drafting certificate or an undergrad will most probably be working in residential projects or smaller projects, where somebody who has a master's degree can work in any type of architectural project. So a lot of people just think of architecture as being the design of built forms, but there's actually so many other opportunities available to people who have studied architecture. So architecture allows you to do design on various scales because you need to investigate different environments. So you sometimes will go into detail with plants and how they influence your design or the space that you are designing. Sometimes you're going to detail of small things, so how things are put together, such as kitchen cupboards, sometimes even lighting design. So in as much as architecture is very specific, it also allows you the opportunity of going into various other fields. The next slide. So you can go into product design, more specifically lighting design. You can go into graphic design. This specific mural is done by a friend of mine that I studied with, who has taken his graphic style that he used in school and is now concentrating solely on how to decorate interior spaces using graffiti or graphic design. Other fields of architecture include interior architecture and landscape architecture, which are now being offered as specialist courses at the University of Pretoria as well as the University of Johannesburg. So you will do your basic or your undergrad in architecture, and then from postgrad level, you will do a specialization in either interior architecture, landscape architecture, or architecture. Yeah, so that's basically it. If you guys want further information about the architectural field in general, you can visit this website, www.saycapsa.com, which will give you more information on where you can go to study architecture and the path that you can follow, the architectural profession, possible bursaries that are being offered. And then if you're looking for places where you can go for your work shadow or your internships, sometimes they'll have that information on different practices or professionals, individual professionals that are offering services. So also you can go to the university websites where they will tell you more information about your architecture education or your course and the requirements that are needed in order to get in. So your APS scores, selection interviews, all of that, as well as bursaries that are available. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Musa. Sorry, guys. Orange Farm has just gone off the grid of electricity. Guys, this is your chance to ask questions. Like I said, you can write on the chat, or you can just lift your hand and then you can ask a question. You can fire away. Do you want to ask a question?
So everybody understands.
It looks like it, and I'm even scared of asking a question because I didn't hear half of what you were saying because I was off. Anyone with a question, guys?
Okay.
Okay,
like
so if I may ask, let me just ask Musa. Yeah, here's a question from Melissa. What inspired you to become an architecture?
Okay, so I didn't initially know what architecture was. I used to draw a lot as a child growing up, and then my sister introduced me to the word architecture. She said, "What do you think about architecture?" And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I actually thought it was somebody who drew animations. So animations are those cartoons that we watch. I went on to read up on architecture and became very interested in architecture because I come from a small town where there isn't much development going on in comparison to the bigger cities like Joburg or Durban or Cape Town. And I would watch Top Billing a lot also, where they would show those beautiful houses. And that's when I became interested in architecture and what it actually means.
Hey, thank you. I have one person that I see. Can you please mute? I have one person that I see raise their hand is guys, can you please mute? All right. If there's no other question, Musa,
Olani,
I
I
think
see that there are some questions here in the chats.
in the comment. Oh, geez, guys, who is that? Let me just quickly check.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Okay. So
sorry.
Mandla Nkosi, you asked the question, does upholstery fall under architecture? No, it doesn't. That would be your furniture design, which would be more towards product design. Some interior architects actually specialize in furniture design rather than going into architecture.
Okay, so basically, architecture is not limited to just buildings. It's also, like you said, you can actually be an architecture for a car company. Is that what you said?
So there's architecture as the bigger umbrella, and then under architecture, there's interior architecture, which would be your finishings, so stuff that happens on the inside. So your furniture, your cupboards, your floors, your walls, that would be more interior architecture. And then there's landscape architecture, which deals with your plants. So places like parks would be landscape architects who design those.
Okay, and then there's a question there that says, what subjects do you need for architecture? And then the next one is, what is the monthly salary of an architect? And then the last one is, what challenges did you face of being an architecture?
Okay, the first question, subject-wise, is maths and science. So most places will require only those two, and then other subjects such as maths, English, or life orientation. But if you have maths and science, you will definitely be able to apply with a minimum of 60% upwards.
Thank you.
Monthly salary, that is a very difficult one to say because it depends on the company that you're working for. So it can range anything from 6,000 as an intern all the way up to 80,000 if you're a professional architect with 10 plus years of experience. So it's difficult to pinpoint an exact number. There's no average starting salary, if I can put it that way.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to answer the last question, what challenges? Okay. I think a lot of the challenges that we face is being Black architects in a predominantly white industry. So you have to really, really be good at what you do. And you need to be willing to stand up for yourself in the industry. Especially, it's more difficult, especially for women, because there's not a lot of professional female architects in the industry.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. And then there's a question that is repeating itself, guys. Remember the subjects she mentioned, so predominantly maths and science, and then the other subjects. But then I think the person that is asking that question is probably asking what kind of subject when you are in your university, that let's say for first year, typically the subjects that you meet as a first year, I'd say.
Okay, so the course is already packaged, so there's not a lot of room for you to choose your own subjects, but the subjects that you would do are structures. So that is basically how you would deal with forces, and if there's wind coming into your building, how do you deal with that? There's history of architecture, so all the history of architecture from the Europeans all the way to South African examples of architecture. There is environmental science, which is what I have an interest in. So how do you make your building more friendly to the environment? How do you make it more sustainable? How do you not just take resources from the earth without putting back and more, adding more resources? There is also, so this is more towards your specialist courses, so your interior architecture and landscape architecture. You would do things that relate to the speciality. So if you're going to do interior architecture, you would have a module based on just materials. If you're doing landscape architecture, you would have a module based on plant science. And then towards the end of your study, so you're either your third year or your postgraduate qualifications, you do a business law, because you need to know how to run an architectural practice, which is very different from just running any other business that there is out there.
Okay. No, thank you so much, Musa. Guys, just to make sure that we accommodate all our guests, you can keep on asking questions. We'll probably send in to Usis Musa, and then she can answer them. Or if we have time at the end, we'll actually answer those questions. So, because I need to introduce another person right now. Musa, truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing. It was a great presentation.
Much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the next person, guys, that I am going to introduce to you is Nkateko Mabasa. Okay, Nkateko Mabasa is from Davidton. Okay, can you please mute? Okay, so Nkateko Mabasa is from Davidton. Nkateko is an engineer. Okay, so Nkateko holds a mechanical engineering certificate from Ekurhuleni East College. Okay, Nkateko did an apprenticeship at SAA. You know, where the airport is, there's a company there, South African Airways Technical, for 4 years. And Nkateko is qualified as an aircraft turner machinist. He's going to tell you what that is. And currently, Nkateko works at Shimex Engineering. So Nkateko, if you are connected, could you please take the stage, introduce yourself, and please just allow our young people to understand and know exactly what you do, and also how do you get there, and what kind of hints and tips that you can give them. Thank you so much. Is Nkateko here? Hi, Noktula. Sorry, can I take Noktula? Noktula, can you come in?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Yes.
He said he can't talk now because remember we had scheduled him for 4 o'clock. So he is listening,
okay.
but he can't really engage now.
Okay, is Sivuyela here?
No, Sivuyela is 4:30.
Oh, Sivuyela is 4:30. Okay, so okay, let me see.
So I don't know. I see Musa is still here.
Is Musa still here? Maybe she can still take those questions, right?
Also, one of the things that maybe she can advise us on, especially with the young kids, if what other apprenticeship or bursary opportunities are available for people who want to study in your field.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the bursaries are usually offered by individual companies. So you'd need to go onto their websites. They usually have Facebook pages where they share information like that. The Department of Health, the Department of Education, the Department of Infrastructure Development, the Department of Public Works also offer bursaries on an undergrad level to the public. So even the local municipalities do it. So City of Ekurhuleni would do it, City of Johannesburg would do it, City of Tshwane. So you just need to keep up to date with their Facebook pages or their websites where they publish information like that.
Okay. So someone has asked, are you happy in this field?
I am. Just like any other, I think, profession, it has its ups and downs. But because I've been wanting to study this for the longest time, it's more rewarding than it is disappointing, I would say.
And how long does it take? I'm not sure if you mentioned that because I see it as a question.
How long does it take?
How long does the person is asking how long does it take for you to become an architecture?
Okay, so there are different levels of being an architect, if I can put it that way. So if you do your undergrad, it would be 3 or 4 years, depending on where you go. At a university, it's 3 years. At a university of technology, it's 4 years. And then you would need to do your postgrad, which is a further 2 years. So all in all, to become a professional architect, it's 5 or 6 years, but you can start working from your undergrad years. It just means that you are a candidate architectural architectural technologist or a senior architectural technologist. I'm gonna answer some of the questions in the chat. When did I start studying architecture? I started my undergrad in 2010 and did that for 4 years. So I finished in 2013. I did my honors in 2016 and 2017, and then did my master's in 2018. Another question here, what are the chances of not making it into the architectural profession? It depends. So with architecture, it's not like your BCom or your B.Ed courses. You have a series of interviews that you undergo before you are actually accepted into architecture. And that's with most of the universities and the University of Technology. I'm not sure when it comes to the colleges, if that's the case, but definitely at the university and University of Technologies, they have selection interviews. And that's primarily because your classes aren't as big as the other departments. So when I was doing my studies, the class size in my first year was 120, but that's because there were architecture students and interior and landscape students. And then in my second and third year, there were about 60 students in the entire class. So even then, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to finish your studies because it's a very tough course, many sleepless nights, which they don't tell you about. But if you are committed and determined to make it, then you shouldn't have a problem.
Musa, I just have a question on my end. So you mentioned that you did like your master's, your honors. Was this like at different institutions, or did you all do all those qualifications with one institution?
Okay, so I did all of mine at the University of Pretoria. So from my undergrad right through to my master's. But some
Musa,
people, yes.
Sorry, can you please just mute mics? You need
My
to
mic.
mute your, no, not your mic.
Oh, okay.
Like some feedback, and it's really difficult to hear you. So if you wanna ask Musa a question, just type it on the chat or raise your hand and then we'll acknowledge you. But for now, everyone, please mute your mic. Thank you. Yes, Musa?
Okay, so I did all of my qualifications at the University of Pretoria, which is one institution, but there are some people that decide to do their undergrad at one institution and then move on to do their postgrad in other institutions, which you can also do.
Thank you. I see a hand. I think Kylie Shengwenya. Can you unmute yourself and then ask your question? Kylie Shengwenya, your hand has been up. I'm not sure if you. Okay, I'll lower it for you.
So good day, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm with Kylie Sengwenya from Vukona. So I wanted to ask, what is her strength and weakness as an architect?
Okay. So
Yes.
my strength, which is what I enjoy doing, is designing the building. My weakness, or where I'm not strong in, which I only started doing, is the project management side of architecture. So it means dealing with contracts, it means dealing with the nitty-gritty of the other things that aren't architecture related. So it means, how do you deal with other consultants? How do you deal with the client? How do you deal with money? Making sure that the project that you are assigned is on time and on budget.
Okay. And if you are an architect, is it a must that you work for a specific company, or what other opportunities do you have? Can you be your own business person, doing your own architectural company, etc.? And what services would you ideally offer?
Okay, so it's not compulsory that you work for a company. It is possible that you can work for yourself and open your own architectural company. Ideally, you would do so after having worked for another company for a while, just so that you can get an idea of what it is that it means to run your own architectural business. And you can, once you open your own architectural company, you can decide what it is that you want to do. Some companies or some people decide that they're only going to do alterations of houses. They're only going to do new houses. They're only going to do office blocks. They're only going to do small projects. So it's entirely up to you, I think, to decide what it is that you want to do. So I have an architectural company that I do outside of my office hours, where I do residential work. So it means houses, either a new house or an alteration. I'm working on a restaurant. So it depends. Once you do your own thing, it's not limited, but it is limited according to your qualification. So if you are a draftsperson, you can still have your own architectural company, but you can only do houses or small projects. Whereas myself, who's a professional architect, I can do anything.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I see Nomzi Posa. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, and please, if you can switch on your video as well, so we can see you. Switch on your DVD. Please go ahead and ask your question.
I wanted to ask,
Yeah.
as a woman, what challenges do you face in this career field?
Just repeat the question for me, please.
As a woman, what challenges do you face in this career field?
It's a very interesting question. Thank you very much for that. So what challenges I face is, I haven't experienced them personally because I think the industry is changing, but a lot of women in the past have faced being sidelined by men because there's a lot of men. I think for every 10 men that are involved in a project or in a company, there's 1 or 2 women. So you need to be able to stand up for yourself and know what it is that you're talking about. You need to be just as good as men. You can't feel entitled that just because you're a woman, they need to be softer on you. You need to take on the character of men just so that they can listen to you.
Wow.
Does that answer your question, Nomzi?
Does that answer your question, Nomzi?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think just having said that, sorry, Colin, I think it would be ideal for both men and women, or you young boys and girls, to just have a mentor who's guiding you in the architectural space. It's always ideal to have somebody, especially if you're a woman, it's ideal to have another woman who's has more experience than you to be your mentor. And the same with guys as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Musa. I have Ubuka Moso, and then I have again Ukaeliche. Guys, I have 2 minutes before I prepare for the next speaker. So if Bukamoso can go first, and then we can give Kaeliche Ngwenya again to ask a question. Go ahead, Bukamoso, unmute yourself. Bukamoso. Bukamoso, can you hear us? Okay. Let me give it to Kaeliche so long. Kaeliche, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Good day again, sir. So I wanted to ask, does she have faith in all the work she does?
You have to. You have to have faith in everything that you do, because the moment you start doubting yourself, that's when you make mistakes, and mistakes cost money. So you need to have faith in everything that you do. Even if you don't know anything, you just pretend like you know it and just go on with the work. If you don't know, then you ask somebody who knows. But ultimately, you will end up knowing.
Thank you. Okay, the last person is Naledi Mateja. Please ask your question.
I wanted to ask, like, if, like, when dealing with, maybe let's say, like, you were ordered many times and then you have like a period of 3 weeks to do all that work. So, like, how do you deal with the stress?
I think for most times you are given enough time to do the work. There will obviously be times where you have a tight deadline and you may not finish. So you need to prioritize what it is that's most important. And if you feel like you won't have enough time. Here where I work, there are other people that are put on the project to help you with the workload. But sometimes you do need to work late just to get the work finished.
And then there's Londani Mutahu and Stabile Mtanga. You guys, I'll give you to ask each a question. Bugamoso, I've given you a chance. You didn't say, so I'll give you again. So Londani Mutahu, can you please unmute yourself? Londani Mutahu, sorry.
Are you happy with the salary?
Is anybody ever happy with their salary? I think most people who work aren't happy with the salaries, but it's a give and take. So if you are more skilled, then chances of you asking for a better salary are higher. So I would advise you to, once you start working, even if it isn't architecture, always make sure that you have a skill that is not readily available. That way you can leverage for a higher salary than most people who just have their degree or their master's degree. Just make sure that there's always one special thing about you when it comes to your skills. So in my office, they know that when it comes to software, they can always come and ask me questions, which is something that I can use if I ever feel like my salary isn't high enough and I need to ask for a raise.
Ah, nice. Okay. Thank you, Naledi. And then Katlego Badumo. I'm running out of time. Katlego, can you please unmute? Thank you.
Hello, can you guys hear me? What's happening? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can. There's a noise though behind you, but we can.
Oh, I just wanted to ask, are you happy, like, since you've become an architecture, what is the one highlight for you that you've encountered?
I think the highlight for me is always completing a project, because there's so many things that can go wrong. You can have a project that starts in 2020 and 5 years later, you haven't built it. So the highlight for me is always completing a project.
Okay, thank you.
And who is this? Stabile Mhlanga.
Hi. So relating to Nom's question, can you guys hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead, Stabile.
Since we all know within our society, building and making and designing, it's all related to men. So have you ever faced
Sorry, Stabile,
gender-
sorry to interrupt you. I'm struggling to hear you.
I'm asking, it's relating to Nom's question.
It's related to Norm's question, yes?
Okay.
Yes. So since designing and building in our society, they expect men to do it. Have you ever felt pressured by proving yourself and proving your work because of gender inequality?
Did you get that?
I think I got it. She's asking, do I feel any pressure designing buildings in my industry because of
Yeah,
gender
look.
inequality?
Yes. Since it's mainly men that are in that space, as you mentioned.
Yes, all the time. All the time. But I think I've answered this, that you need to be comfortable with what it is that you're doing. And you can only do that by learning. So even outside the office, I'm constantly learning so that I can always be up to date with my own skills. Don't just limit yourself to having a letter in your hand. That is not enough in the industry. You need to be continuously learning. And I think you need to take on a different character when you're at work as a female. You need to be fierceless. I'm quite a shy person, but when I'm at work, it's completely different.
Okay, thank you. And then, okay, this is number last, because it's now 4 o'clock. I know, Musa, I know I've been saying
It's
last.
It's okay.
Yeah, so, thank you for your patience. Lele, you are now on the stage, so please ask your question. And there's Oratilwe and Morris, those 3 people, Nje.
Okay.
Lele, Oratilwe, and Morris.
What skills do you require to become an architect?
Lele, sorry, just please take off your mask for a moment so I can hear you.
Ma'am, what skills do you require to become an architect?
Okay, so there's a difference between technical skills and soft skills. So the soft skills are the things that you as a person would have. So you need to be able to pay attention to detail. You need to be creative, not only in terms of design, but ways of problem solving. You need to be able to think quickly on your feet, especially if you're dealing with a project that is on site. You need to be able to make a decision on site and be comfortable with it. You need to be able also to communicate well, so that people, because it's not only you that is dealing with a project, it's other people, other consultants who don't have the same vision as you. But because you had the initial vision and concept, you need to drive it through and make sure that people understand what it is that you are trying to create. And then in terms of technical skills, so things like your software, there's various programs that you can familiarize yourself with. There's things like SketchUp, there's Revit, there's AutoCAD, there are rendering programs like Lumion, Inkscape. There's other programs also called Dynamo and Rhino, which create animations and things like that of your designs. So if you can get those basics, then you should be fine.
Okay. Guys, it's 4:05. Can we please let Sis Musa go so that we can take on the next speaker?
Okay,
And,
can I ask something, Xolani? If anybody has further questions, you are more than welcome to email me. Nokuthula does have my personal email address, and I'll answer as many questions as possible.
Thank you so much, Sis Musa. So guys, did you hear So if you have questions, please write, and Noktula will actually send those questions to Sis Musa, and then she will be able to answer us. But Sis Musa, Sibong Musa Wako, thank you so much, and
Thank you so
really
much for
appreciate it.
having me.
Okay, all right,
Thanks,
thank you.
guys. Bye.
Okay, cheers. Okay, Noktula, do we have our next speaker?
Let me just quickly check on the
Okay, please do.
Deco.
In
I
the
just need to check
meantime,
if is he ready to engage with our young people.
to engage with us. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, let me just do a quick, housekeeping, guys. Let's not forget, please, to make sure that at all times you are mute. It's quite difficult to hear the host when they're speaking and whilst you are unmute. And also the people that are in your room, can you just try and see if you can just control them, make sure that they're not making any noise. And then also, if you lift your hand and you spoke, please lower it afterwards so we can carry on. And also just listen as well, because I see a lot of people are asking repeat questions. So listen as well so that you can find, an answer to your question as well. Okay. So thank you so much for the questions. And I think it's quite an interesting one. So I want you to continue asking questions. It's for your benefit. So thank you. We'll wait for Noktula.
It's ready for us. So I'm just gonna make host.
Eh?
I'm gonna make him a co-host.
Oh, he's here already.
Yeah, he's here already. Kateko, if you can on your side, can you please unmute yourself and turn on your camera if possible?
Yes, please. Okay. Okay. Is Kateko here?
Yes, he is here.
Sweet. Thanks, Kateko. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. Guys, I'll introduce Kateko to you again. Okay, so Kateko, his name is Kateko Mabasa, is from Davidton. Not sure if any of you knows Davidton. And Kateko is a mechanical engineer, holds a mechanical engineer certificate from Ekurhuleni East College. And he did his apprenticeship at the SAA Technical for 4 years, and is qualified as an aircraft turner machinist. Kateko is currently working for Shimex Engineering. He will share his career. So Kateko, the floor is yours. You just, tell the young people what you do currently and tell them how you got there. Just give a snippet of your journey so that they can be able to also ask questions around what do they need to do to become another Kateko.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be able to present engineering this time, but it's actually a very growing field, as we know, that South Africa needs more engineers. So I also took this journey way back when I was still at school and decided to do engineering, but I did not have a clear idea on what I wanted to do. But growing up, I always loved to do designing. It can be drawing, fixing stuff around and all that. So at school, I did maths and science, which is critical to the course itself. I finished my matric and I went to a college and I did mechanical engineering. So mechanical engineering is broad. At first, we all think that it only deals with cars and so forth. But really learning about it has made me to even see that it's even big, because almost everything, especially in mining, it has mechanical work in a sense of most of the work that is done underground. There's machinery and everything. It needs people to fix those machines and to also operate them. But I then applied at South African Airways. So the minimal requirements is N3 mechanical engineering. Either you can do electrical or you can do mechanical. So there are even more other courses. But I did mechanical engineering, and it was only for 3 months the course. But I continued because there's like N4, N5, N6, but there's also drawing there that I learned, and I was also good at it. When I applied it, South African Airways, at first I did not get accepted. I think maybe it was full. Then I continued to do something else. Then they later called me to come and start. But when we got there, it was actually many people to actually know that South African Airways, it has a lot of jobs that are there, but mostly in engineering, there's people who paint aeroplanes. There's also, they were like part of us, they were also there to start the training with us. So we get to be put in one training. We do it for 3 months. It's like general training to know the basics of engineering. So we all do it. So then you can choose. It's either you want to do painting. There's also what we call trimming. So if you see the design inside the aeroplane, all the leather seats and nice surrounding is done by people who are called trimmers. It's like if you are familiar with Tunga, like being a seamstress, like designing, fashion designer, but there you do like furniture stuff. Then there's also structural engineering that other people chose. So like everything from scratch, you get to fix the structures of an aircraft, and also mechanical engineers. So mechanical engineers, also aircraft engineers, they also fix the aircraft itself. So I chose machining because machining, it deals mostly with being able to create something out of the raw material, like Bagnigaza in CMB, just a steel, then you have to manufacture it into a different size according to the drawing specification. Then it is presented. Then you have to measure it, get the correct sizes and all that. It may sound difficult, but it's really not, because you are just operating a machine. So doing it manually, but now there's CNC machines which like automated. So you program the machine so that it can do whatever you tell the machines to. So that's the new level. So everyone is jumping into that. And there's also electrical, everything that's happening in the electrical they call it also instrumentation in an aircraft. So it communicates and tells you what to do. So mostly the pilots hardly does a lot, just autopilot. Mostly they have to know well how to take off and to land. When it's on the air, it just autopilots and it just goes on its own. So majority of the work has to be 100%. So us on the field, we are making sure that everything goes well, because whatever that we make has to go in. Components goes wrong, you might be in trouble. But there's a lot of checking that goes being supervised to make sure that this work is 100%. So the level of expectation when it comes to results, you are given 3 attempts when I was doing my apprenticeship, that you need to, if you fail, like as you given practical work, if you make a mistake and whatnot, maybe you fail, you can only fail 2 times while you repeat that same thing. The third time, it's a dismissal. So you need to really put up the work. The pass mark is 75%. That's the minimum. So you always have to score above 75%. So yeah, we did that. Then also what I was doing, it was not only limited to aviation. So I applied elsewhere, and now I'm manufacturing things for the mine. So where I am is been like almost 2 years now, and the work is continually growing. But I've not stopped studying. I'm doing. I want to continue with my degree in mechanical engineering, and it puts me in a better position to even be a manager or even a shop steward in that matter. So it's really a growing environment, and I will encourage people to search um, these careers, because there's also an expo, a career expo that happens each and every year at South African Airways. I'll get you further details about that, but also try to Google or follow them on social medias. They're there, and they also have like career expos where they showcase, like, many people from different schools and colleges go there so that they get to be exposed to what is happening there, and they get to choose which fields they can go to. So this is a great time for you that you can even research. But because of COVID, it was somehow limited, but things have eased down now. As long as proper precautions will be followed, it goes on, because they also showcase people who are doing firefighting there, to help make sure that the aircraft does not get into a problem. There are people from the South African Air Force that come. They also show their pilot jets, their fighter jets, and all that, so that you can be exposed to that knowledge. So when it comes to education, there is no end. It is broad. You may think you are only studying for now, but it may open further opportunities and a road for you ahead. So from what I can really encourage is that this is a great field, engineering, and there's also good money. um, there's many people that really fast track depending on the company that you work for and experience. But we're looking at plus or minus 18,000 a starter in South Africa. Then other countries, it's even 30 or like 35,000 as a starter after you finish your training that you can earn. So it's not limited for you to just, work here with any qualification. You can always try to apply internationally, and you can stand a great chance to get better experience. And when you come back, you can be put you can apply to any company, and you will stand a higher chance because of the experience that you might get wherever you may be. So I will encourage everyone to really look into simple things like maths and science. Take really take them serious. The things that we learn while we are at school. So right now it may look like we are not doing maths and science a lot because we are working, but there's a lot of application. So things that you learn, like maths and physics, now it comes into play. It's now reality that sometimes you need to maybe calculate there, but it's mostly you have to work. So just work hard to get those good marks that will get you to like better chance to be admitted. See that you can go to university, but technical colleges and technical universities like TUT and VAL, they are good when it comes to such fields, because they have all the workshops and a lot of like experience there that you can get, and there's just exposure when it comes to the field. And most of the instructors or professors there, they were also working on the field. So them coming to teach there also qualifies them to even help you to get you where you want to go. So
Thank you.
I don't know. Yeah, I think that's all for now.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nkateko. Guys, I think I'm going to open for questions. Okay. Nkateko has spoken a lot about where he's working. You know, he's working with aeroplanes and he's an engineer there. So I see there are certain questions that are on the chat, Mr. Nkateko. One of the questions that I see here is, what is the difference between structural engineering and civil engineering? This is coming from Deborah Freeman. So we've got only 10 minutes, guys, to actually ask questions and answer, and then we can allow Mr. Nkateko to actually leave, and then we carry on with the next host. So thank you so much. Yeah, what is the difference between structural and civil engineering? That's a question.
Okay, when it comes to structural engineering, it is broad in a way that it deals mostly with any structure. It can be also of a building, the bridges that we see around, structure of anything. So those things are also engineered. So that's like just to make sure that the structure is okay. When it comes to civil, it's mostly when it comes to building. So people that help to build, there are people who have to come and check. Those are civil engineers to check that the place it's okay for them to put whatever that they wanna build there. So they work hand in hand with structural engineers, civil engineers and structural engineers. Just that sometimes they may be in different fields depending on what field are you in. If it can be marine or just maybe a certain company, depending on what the company is doing. It's mostly they work hand in hand.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kateko. There is a question here. I'm smiling because I know this question was going to come. It's asking about money. As in, like, how much do engineers get paid? I know you sort of mentioned the stats and where they're starting, etc. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit, especially in different levels.
Okay. When it comes to engineers earn a lot because the material they're using also it weighs really good money. So there's amount of like there's a certain basic that needs to be there. So there's a starter and you have to go above. So the basic, I would say it is like mostly 20K, 20,000. That may be the basic, but it depends on the company. On a small company, they may even give you like less than what I'm saying. Then with experience and time, your money will always be growing. We have someone that we work with. They earn like 45,000 or so, and you're not like it's surprising how they got there, but it's mostly it was education. That person has masters in mechanical engineering. So when you study further and you also know that you are good at what you're doing, you go tell them that, hey, I have a degree, I have a doctorate and whatnot, then it qualifies you to even up your salary. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay. And then thank you for that. There's someone that has asked a question of what is the AP score that one needs to reach in order for one to become an engineer? So I think this is talking more about the subject and the AP scores as well.
Okay. I think you have to have very good marks. So it will be maybe 50 and above, but that's just average. So if you put yourself to say, let me aim at least 60%, and always try to go higher. But if you have like maybe 75, it gives you a better credit and also a better chance to even be admitted. You can get even a good bursary or scholarship when you have even higher. So you just have to at least keep to a minimum of 50 and above, but don't always go down. 75% is what I have been used to, and it really stretches you and makes you to really work hard. So try, like always practice.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kateko. I think just to extend to the answer, remember, guys, the AP score also varies with universities, but around 28, most of the universities, they will accept you if you have an AP score of 28. And also, like I say, there are certain tests that are being written before you go to the varsity. Remember, when you want to do a degree, there's a benchmark test that people are actually seeking. Some universities, they are compulsorily asking for it, and etc. So like Mr. Kateko is saying, just work hard. As you can see, he's talking about 75% and up. So that means it's someone that needs to focus. I see the hand. Okay, I just want to quickly just go through some of the questions here, certain questions that are repeating. I'm not going to say those. Yeah, what are the characteristics? I think what are the characteristics of being an engineer? What kind of a person that you need to be? I am going to club it together to say your strengths and your weaknesses as an individual and all of that.
Okay, so some of the things that maybe you might not have them, but it does not mean that you don't qualify. Some of the things you might build as you move along. But it's not only limited to men. There's a lot of ladies in the field that are really killing it. I don't want to lie. A few that they were always really achieving great things. But you need to be really vibrant, like always be energetic. You need to, there's no like a certain amount of structure your body needs to be, you just need to always be active. It's really not hard work, as we know, but you really need to work smart. But you really need to take time to learn from others also. If you think that someone has something that you think you can use, try to learn how they got it and copy and paste. That's how it is. No one is perfect.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll club certain questions here. There's a question number one that is asking, is it dangerous to become a mechanical engineer? Number two, what inspired you to become an engineer? And what is the third question? Or who inspired to become a mechanical engineer? That is the second question. Yeah, so if you can answer me those two questions. Guys, I've got 2 minutes. I'm probably gonna go straight and ask those two questions to Mr. Kateko and take few hands, and then we can wrap it up and give another person to host. Thank you.
Okay. I would say the field, it is dangerous, but not to really that extent that, hey, don't be there. Because it's dangerous, that's why there's money. But it's not like you're putting your life at risk. There's always safety precautions that are followed. So the company always has to make sure that maybe to make sure that the standard of safety is always at point. So there are people who always come to check if we are following the safety. So like, for example, if I'm doing my work, I need to have like glasses or a shield on, because they are, as I'm doing my work, there may be things that may come on my face or whatnot. So if I'm protected, I'm fine. And safety boots, as you know, like PPE, your overalls. So those are like basic. But even the environment that you are at is safe. It's not like things that are followed that always make sure that the place is safe. There's also, the other question was what inspired you? Yes, to do mechanical engineering. There's a few friends that I know. They were working at, is it Mpumalanga at what's the company? Sasol. So of course, looking at their lifestyle and really achieving great things, I'd say that they were buying houses at that time and cars. I was like, hey, I want this. And like they made it look easy to say, hey, you just need to go to college, and really there's a lot of money for mechanical engineering, because they were doing like fitting and turning, and some were doing electrical. So like they were doing easy stuff, but they were getting a lot of money. So good companies out there, they really pay good when it comes to engineering.
Okay. Guys, let me just take say 3 or so questions. I see Lele, and Lele, can you please just unmute yourself and then ask the question? There was an interesting question also that I will ask after Lele that came from the chats. Okay. Lele, please unmute. Lele, it's your space. You can speak, you can ask a question. Okay, whilst Lele is still thinking, so someone has asked, so what have you crafted or made so far?
There's a lot. I wish I could show you a picture, just that now I'm just sitting at the gym. But there's a lot. You see, are you familiar with threads? When like you're bolting something, the thread itself. So the thread itself, I make that from scratch. So like to the size, to the length, and the base need to make sure that it aligns and it's parallel to what I'm doing. So like the threads, it can be
what
the threads. Okay, let me just show you an example of what is here at the gym. Hopefully, you see, these are like threads for holding anything. Like maybe I need to like put it together in this way. So like there are threads inside here, and there are threads that are here. So they have to match. So like I'm putting it in, so it has to go in. So that's like some of the things that we do.
Okay, got it.
That's just an example.
Yeah, so say Usama Mkela is asking, why are you only focusing on civil, mechanical, and electrical? What about sound engineering? Okay. So I think it goes in with the question that I was asking, what are different types of fields in the engineering field? Yeah. Maybe we can name a few so that people can understand that it's vast.
Yeah, I think engineering is broad, like I said. And you will be surprised that you may even learn other engineering things that are happening. But even sound engineering, it's actually a lot happening there, from the sound quality coming that people can hear it. There's a lot of behind the scene that are happening. So people are really making sure that things come out as quality. So engineering is just broad. It's just broad.
Okay. I think it's asking which universities did you go to? And yeah, which universities did you go to? And what challenges have you faced as a mechanical engineer?
Okay. I went to a college, but I'm continuing with UNISA now. I went to Ekurhuleni East College, but now I'm continuing with UNISA to do my degree. But the challenges, yes, the challenges that I faced was mostly to work with people. I think working with people is the hardest thing because people have different characters, but sometimes because you need to be in a team. So it's a chain. If I'm taking my own personal issues and try to act like I won't help this other person because they did not treat me well, it's going to ruin the work, and our reputation as a company can go down. So those are like some of the challenges that we had to like put our differences aside. There are people that we even thinking, they can fight and whatnot, but we had to say, hey, this is our lives. We all need these jobs. We all need to take care of our families. So we had to overcome that in ways of we hang out, we have like activities as workers, not only come to work and that's all, but we also like go out and try to have recreational activities that will bring a teamwork.
Okay, thank you so much. And then I see Siamkela. Siamkela, can you please ask your question? Lele, I have noted your challenge. Maybe you can write your question. Siamkela, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Siamkela. There we go. Please go ahead and ask your question, Siamkela. Okay. Okay, Siamkela is quiet. Are
Someone
you
is
happy with your
asking if I'm
salary?
happy with my salary.
I saw that. Are you happy with your salary?
Yeah, I'm happy with my salary, but I will never be fully happy. Of course, we always want more, but at the moment, yes, I am currently happy with my salary. But hence, that's why I'm continuing to study further so that my salary can even go higher and higher and higher. So it's always wanting more.
Yeah. So guys, remember, I see there are questions that are asking deep questions around sound engineering. Sekateko is focused on mechanical engineering. He works with planes and he's explained what he does. So he's not doing the sound engineering and the other things. So that is his focus right now. And I think the best thing, for you to do, guys, as with the previous guest, that you write your question, you send them. We will actually, let me just check with you first. Is it okay that we are sending questions to you that may have not been answered here, Mr. Kateko Babasa, like through your email?
Okay.
Is it okay that we can
Yes.
send you emails after this whole thing? Is that okay? Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
So I
good.
think we will do the same thing, guys, and we will continue asking questions, those that we have not answered. Okay, someone is really struggling to actually get in. So before a plane takes off, did you see that question? Before a plane takes off, are there any? Yeah, did you see that? Okay, can you please answer that?
No, can you read the question?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were seeing it as well. Okay, so before the plane takes off, are there any background checks? I think that's a question. Are there any background checks that are done?
Okay. Yes. The answer is yes. When it comes to aviation or aircraft, there's, I would say 100%, if, okay, maybe 98% of the work, it works with safety. So there's a lot of checks that are done. So there's like 3 supervisors and 5 managers that everything that is done, it has to go from this one to that one to that. So the possibilities of an aircraft to fail, it's mostly impossible. So most of the accident, we were looking at the stats, most of the air crashes that happens, it's mostly because of human error. The aircraft itself, it's 100% safe. So most of the mistakes are done by, it's either a pilot or they did not check themselves that they had to maybe refill again before they continue to the next airport. So it's like minor things that the pilots, they neglect, which, sometimes because it signals you if there's something wrong. But if there's something wrong and I don't attend to it immediately, then we will have a problem. So the aircraft itself, it's like safety is number 1 when it comes to that.
Okay, look, thank you so much, Mr. Katekone. I hear that our next speaker is around, and I would like to really thank you for, I think it's a very interesting course. Guys, I think some of these things we don't know. I mean, you just grew up knowing that you have to do either teaching or what. So those are the important, but there are other scarce skills out there, including, what Mr. Kateko is doing. Mr. Kateko, we truly appreciate it. And we truly appreciate your presence, and thank you so much. We will further, send you the questions that I see flooding in after you spoke. I'm seeing that a lot of people are really, really interested in the mechanical engineering that you just spoke about. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Guys, our last speaker of the day has just connected, Mr. Sivuyile Pezulu. So, Mr. Sivuyile Pezulu, if you could indicate your presence by switching on your video, and so we can see you, and also just saying hello to us. It would make a huge difference. We only have 18 minutes before we finish. Thank you guys for asking those questions. A lot of you are asking key questions. Again, I'm going to encourage you to ask questions, knowing very well that they are important to you, and also just make sure that you see the other people's questions. Maybe your answer lies in there. Okay, Mr. Sivuyile, are you here? Noctula, can you please indicate if Mr. Sivuyile is here? I saw him connecting.
Yes, he's here and his video is on. I'm not sure if you guys can see him on your side.
I'm not seeing him yet.
Hi, Sivu, can you hear me? Oh, you mute, sorry.
Oh, he's mute, okay. Sorry, Sivu. Okay, unmute yourself.
There we go. Sorry, I was trying to unmute and it kept saying I can't.
Oh, okay. Sorry for that. Mr. Sivuyile, if you could please introduce yourself, sir. I don't have your bio next to me, and then literally have less than 20 minutes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's fine. I won't be long. So by way of introduction, my name is Sivuyile Pezulu. Thank you to the team and thank you, Noctula, for inviting me to be part of this. I am in the engineering space, specifically water treatment. And if you're happy for me to go along, I can just share some of the thoughts that I had.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Just give us a brief of how you went there, what you do, what are the most important things that we need to take away from your talk. Thank you so much, Mr. Sivuyile Phezulu.
Thank you. It's interesting while I was thinking about this, how it's almost come full circle, being in the water treatment space, because so I was born and grew up in a remote part of South Africa, a small town called Flagstaff, which is in the Transkei area of the Eastern Cape. Nothing much has changed since I was born there. We still have no running water. We still have pit latrines, meaning not flushing toilets. And it's quite interesting how much of the work that I now do in the water treatment space is influenced by my experiences growing up in such a water challenged area. But yes, I'm from the Eastern Cape. I studied and spent a lot of time in Durban. That's where I studied chemical engineering. So that's my qualification. And I did not know that water treatment as an industry exists until I was in my third year of university. We had a module that focused on water treatment, but also the graduate program I then got into a year later was a company that's in the water treatment space. And it was quite interesting for me how, you could study engineering, you could live in a city where you open the tap and you have clean water and you can use the toilet and you can flush, and yet never think about, how do we get that clean water and how is it used? So it was so exciting to end up in a company that does that. As I continue, I saw a question that came. I'll be happy to answer it as part of my story. So my job in my first company was a project engineer. This is in that water treatment company. What I was responsible for, and this answers the question that was asked, was to design engineered systems to treat water. So if you look at, maybe you've seen or heard of the Val Dam, the Umgeni Dam, if you're from KZN. So there are lots of water sources in our country. The water in those dams, I mean, even by looking, you can see is not clean. Sometimes it's brown. It's got a lot of contaminants or things that make it unsafe for human consumption. If you drink that water, you either get sick along the way, or in some cases, you could, in drastic cases, you could die, as in the case of, waterborne diseases such as cholera, diarrhea. So my job was then to, sorry, if you can just give me a second, I'm going to close this door so that I don't have noise. Thank you. So sample of that water, I go to the lab, I analyze that water to see what is in that water that makes it not safe for drinking. After understanding what is in that water, then it was my job to design systems that would remove the things that are dangerous in that water in order to make it safe for us to drink. A lot of that uses chemicals. I saw another question that looked at chemicals. So a lot of it you need to use chemicals to remove the water. There are chemicals called flocculants. Dust or the sand and the water basically have become one, and you need a way to. So there are chemicals that you add that then separate that water and the dust. The dust will collect at the bottom as mud, which you can remove, and then the clearer water is at the top. And then you can filter all the dust. And then in most cases, like the water that we drink straight from the tap, They use chlorine, and this kills all the bacteria that is in the water. And in a few simple steps, well, not simple, a bit complicated, but in a few steps, you are able to enjoy clean drinking water out of your tap. The qualifications you need, now this is an exciting industry to be in. And I'm sure everyone here that spoke about what they do are very passionate, but I'm going to tell you something, that if you are undecided, if you want to, please research water treatment and look at it. And there's a reason I say that. Number one, South Africa is a water scarce country. We use more water than we receive. Now, the water cycle is referred to as a closed loop cycle. So we don't get any new water. The water you and I drink is the same water that our grandparents drink. It's the same water that their great grandparents drank. And if you are religious, it's the same water that Adam and Eve drank. If you are a scientist or if you believe in evolution, it's the same water that the dinosaurs drank. We don't have any new water, right? So the water that we get in, if I can just give you a brief of the water cycle. So you have water in lakes, in rivers, in the ocean, and it evaporates up to the sky, it forms clouds, it rains, the water comes back down. And that continues going over and over again. We don't have any new water that magically, is created from anywhere. Now, having said that, South Africa is a water scarce country in the sense that if you look at, historic information, we receive less rain than we need water, right? And that's what happened in Cape Town. If you remember, there was day zero where literally people ran out of water. You could open your tap and there was no water for weeks to months. Less published, but same scenario in KwaGqeberha, former PE, there was also a day zero about 2 to 3 years ago, where particularly the township areas did not receive water for weeks. It is a big challenge in South Africa, having said that. And most of the water we use, especially coming from the Vaal River, is through a political agreement that our country has with Lesotho. So if Lesotho were to wake up and say, sorry, we don't want to give you any more water, us in the Gauteng region, Free State, Northwest, that area that gets fed by water from the Vaal River, we will be in trouble. So a lot of innovation is going into the water space. A lot of companies are opening in the water space, and there's a lot more opportunity. I am not aware of many people that have qualifications in the water treatment space that still struggle for jobs. It is quite a, do I love my job? So I'm reading your comments and trying to answer you as I tell my story. I love every single job I've had since 2008 when I finished my qualification and started working in water. I got to work in industry and in municipal water. So what you're drinking, what companies need, it's all connected. My first job, I was one of the lucky ones in my graduate program. So back in 2008, I was earning about 8,000 rands a month. So I got a very good company that had a very good graduate program. I know some of my classmates were earning half or even a third of that. So back in 2008, I don't know what it would be now if I factor in inflation, but I just remember as a 20-year-old, starting out, it was, quite a good salary. I was staying at home. So I was quite happy with that. Now, each company pays differently. If you end up in a private company, I know private companies are very stingy and they want the best of the best, but they want to pay the least of the least. And some municipal companies are quite good in their packages. So that works out okay. I grew in that career, and then I decided that I want to move from being a project engineer that designs systems to being a sales engineer that sells the system, right? Because then I get a salary plus I get a commission for everything I sell. So I moved into sales and I spent a lot of time in sales. If you have an opportunity to have any job in sales, even if it's retail, it teaches you so much. It teaches you to hustle. It teaches you to serve the customer, to know and understand your customer, besides the technical job that you do. I spent about maybe 6, 7, actually close to 8 years in that role. I traveled around the world. I traveled around Africa. I was designing and selling these systems, and I was making good enough money to sustain myself and my family. I then decided to leave that job and start a company myself. So right now I run my own water treatment company. The reason I'm doing this call from the car is because I just came from seeing a client right now, and in a mine in Stillport, and everything went according to plan. And that's what I do on a day-to-day basis, just visiting
So,
other companies that have.
sorry, Sivu. Can I just check quickly with some of the
Yes,
questions
please.
that have been asked? Mostly, they're asking what stream of subjects did you do at school, and also what are the courses that you did at varsity in general? Yeah.
Perfect. To get into the technical side of water treatment, you need an engineering qualification. So chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, or civil engineering. Those are the three main disciplines of engineering if you want to get into the technical, where you are designing systems that purify or treat water to a certain standard. The other qualifications you can look at are the science ones. So if you do things like food technology, because they get into microbiology, you work at a lab where you can analyze water samples and be able to pick things that are in the water that make it dangerous for human consumption. I know TUT has an incredibly good course that's called Water Care. It's a 3-year qualification. It's a diploma. You can add a 4th year for a BTech, and they look into the science of water. I work with quite a few people that have studied that, and it's quite a good qualification. So if you do any chemical, mechanical, civil engineering, or a science that's water-based, so either water science, environmental science, or water care in the case of TUT, as I said. I personally studied for 3 years full time. Back then it was 3 years. Now, if you do a BSc or a BEng, it's 4 years. But back when I did it was 3 years, and then the 4th year I got into a graduate program.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's a persisting question here. I think it's linking to what you're talking about around contaminated water. Someone is asking, did it mean that you had to do biology as well as part of your subject at school?
That's a good question. In high school, I actually did not do biology. It is a plus because you do have a module that is microbiology, that looks at biology as a discipline, but into those microscopic organisms that exist in the water that you can't see with your eye. I struggled a bit with it because I did not have a background in biology. So if you can do biology, I would say if you are in high school, you need maths, you need science, physical science, and you need life science to be able to get at the right qualification at university. But even with just maths and physics, you are fine. Biology is an additional extra.
Say, is it possible to clean water from the sea? This is a question from Lele.
Yes. Lele, that's a very good question. It is very possible. Middle East does it really well. Israel does it really well. Quite a few European countries like Portugal and Spain do it very well. In South Africa, we do have a few plants that clean water from the sea. There are only 2 problems that we have. They are very expensive to build, and they use a lot of energy to run. And our case with Eskom and load shedding. So these are the 2 problems that we have currently as a country. But if they were to become cheaper to build and cheaper to run, then we would not have any problems, water problems, particularly for KZN, Eastern Cape and Western Cape and Northern Cape, because they are right by the sea.
Thank you. Linda Mutaone, I think the question is asking about the cases of contaminated water in South Africa in general. You know, what percentage of that do we actually get? I think the specific question is like, how many cases did you get about contaminated water?
Our water treatment plants that are run by the municipalities, the drinking water ones, most of them are quite to standard as far as the world is concerned. So you don't get a lot of cases where if it went from a municipal water treatment plant that the water is still contaminated. But you do from time to time get instances like what happened in Hammanskraal, actually what is still continuing to happen in Hammanskraal, where the water has been unsafe to drink. In Cape Town, about a few months ago, they also had a day or two where they were asked not to drink water from the taps because some of their stations were offline and they needed maintenance. So it's very remote cases. Most of our treatment plants are actually quite good, which is why if you go anywhere in South Africa, at least the major cities, you can open a tap and drink the water without worrying about getting sick because the water is contaminated.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr.
I'll also
Sivuyile.
include in this question, there's a question about the chemicals that I used. Yes, there are chemicals used, and the chemicals that I used are of good quality, so you can drink that water.
Okay, so the chemicals that you use to cleanse the water, they are safe. Okay, so thank you, Mrs. Vile. Guys, I just want to check with Mrs. Vile if are you willing to take questions via emails if we send you a list of questions via emails that you can answer? I see the time now is 5 o'clock, and I know some of the guys they have to travel.
When I left my name and my email address there.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, so we do have it as well on our side. So thank you so much for doing that, and I truly appreciate your presence. And we do this annually, and we really feed on professionals that are coming in to speak to the young people about the courses and how they go about them. Because some of these courses people do not know about them. So thank you so much, Mrs. We really appreciate it. Is Mr. Vieira here? I think the network is okay. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Listen, please remember, Maria, I see you. I'm so sorry I can't take your hand now because it's 5 o'clock already. We are continuing tomorrow. We're doing law, and please, guys, just make sure that you ask. As I said, you ask specific questions. I saw some questions here, that I think they're a little bit irrelevant. Who do you stay with? We don't accept those questions. I mean, they are irrelevant of the topic that we're doing. I mean, say who do you stay with? There's nothing to do with the professional that we are are actually explaining here. So tomorrow we're doing law. Please be on time. And anybody that has any questions about law, please make sure that you prepare for them. So thank you so much. And Oktula, I don't know if you want to say anything before we close. Oktula? Okay. So thanks, facilitators from all the centers. So let's see each other tomorrow at 3 o'clock when we are attempting to unravel the field of law. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye, Gabo.